Called my husband a manipulative piece of crap and now he's emotionally distant. My husband is incredibly emotional. Sad ad? Here's. Reading a book? Here's. Telling even a remotely sad story? Here's. He feels things very deeply and responds sometimes inappropriately with the amount of emotion he reacts with. I've tried to not have a problem with this as I know that's just his nature, but it can be overwhelming sometimes and it embarrasses me in front of my friends when my husband cries. About 3 months ago, we happened to get into a huge fight. He was telling a story to some friends and exaggerating the story quite a bit. So I just said, "Hey, I think you're lying a bit here. That didn't really happen like that." I wasn't trying to take away from the story, but I hate liars and he does it a fair bit when storytelling. He told me that he just does it for comedic effect and that everyone knows he doesn't tell stories 100% accurately. It was still bothering me, however, after everyone went home and I brought it up again, to which he told me that we'd already talked about it, and he didn't need me to correct him in front of his friends. We essentially got into a fight and I raised my voice. He immediately started crying, more like sobbing, and I told him that he was being a manipulative piece of crap doing that. I told him that I was sick and tired of his emotions and how annoying his cries can be. I told him that every time I bring up something to take as a critique, he begins crying and it's a manipulative way to get me to stop talking about whatever's bothering me. I told him about the time I called his food disgusting and started explaining how I would cook it to taste well, and he started crying. I then threatened to lay hands on him if he didn't stop his manipulative cries. Not proud of that, but in my defense, I didn't mean it. It was in the heat of the moment. My dad did the same thing to my mom, and I hate when men do that. He asked me through shuttered breathing if I really thought he was manipulative, and I said yes. He flicked when I raised my hand right after, and I assured him I wouldn't hurt him, and that was just an empty threat. However, then I told him that he always manipulates the argument into going his way by crying and being the victim. He told me he couldn't even look at me and locked himself into our room to calm down. He came out a few hours later and told me that he was sorry if I thought he was being manipulative and that it wouldn't happen again. Problem solved. Right? Except it's not at all. I didn't notice it immediately, but he started pulling away from me. He won't watch movies with me if there's any sad parts. He doesn't tell me the stories he used to. He won't tell stories to friends when I'm around, and now our friends don't want me to go out when they do because they say he's not fun when I'm there. He stopped reading books in the living room, stopped watching unpredictable TV shows. He won't even talk to his mom on the phone when I'm in the room. I feel like I'm living with a ghost now. It wasn't until yesterday that I even realized I haven't seen him cry since our fight. I brought it up last night, and he told me that he didn't want to manipulate me anymore. I told him that his everyday crying wasn't manipulative, and he said, "So it's only manipulative when you're mad at me."